been harvesting these sugar snap peas just as little snacks and eating them, but I'm actually getting ready to tear these plants out, which just breaks my heart to do because they're so healthy and still setting some blossoms. However, next week our highs are like 95 Fahrenheit, 35 Celsius, and it's not going to cool off after that. It's going to continue to get hot. So these peas are going to start struggling, and I would rather go ahead and get some more tomatoes in the ground right here in my garden outside the kitchen. They've been good while they lasted though. It is a beautiful, quiet weekend morning. We're going to go out to the garden and chat. The creeping thyme has started to root well in the pathways of the cottage garden. And over here, I'm attempting to plant sedum. And in some places, it looks like it's rooting pretty well. And I haven't put it all out here yet because I wasn't sure how I was going to do. So are you the kind of person that has the vision to see spaces like this as they will be? Are you the kind of person that sees them as they are? I think the ability to see things as they will be is an important one if you're trying to establish good sized garden spaces like this, because you can't get impatient. Oh, I just noticed this. Set my mug down. Look, a little gardenia bloom. Oh, I can smell it from here. I bought this little gardenia bush at a local grocery store actually. They had some plants out front, and when I saw those, we called him Pappy, my mom's dad had a gardenia bush out front of his house when I was a teenager, and I remember going to visit him, and he was so excited about that bush, and he would want you to smell it, and then when you left his house he would want to pick lots of the flowers and stuff them into the air vents of your car. I mean, obviously not stuff them deeply into the air vents of your car, but stick them right inside where the air would blow past them and make your car smell good, because he loved the smell of that gardenia bush. And so when I saw that, I thought of him, and I'm going to put it somewhere here in the cottage garden. Still got quite a few plants to find spaces for, and of course all the citrus here, which will be planted out in the second high tunnel once we get it ready. Oh man, look at this. These celotias are like so ready to be planted. I had a different place in mind for them, but we haven't built it yet, so that's why they're still here. I might just have to stick them somewhere in the ground so they don't die being too root bound. I'm pretty excited about my potatoes here. They're looking really good. Of course, these were succession sowed, so we got a few rows in and then waited. It wasn't really intentional. We just needed to get more hay, but as it turned out, we unintentionally succession sowed the potatoes, and I'm really relieved for it because that means that the harvest will be staggered, which is a good thing. So we'll be able to start harvesting new potatoes that we can eat. I don't know, it'll probably be another few weeks or so, and then we can start harvesting ones to put up. And then while we're harvesting these larger ones, these will be new potatoes, so it'll be really good. These 4 rows are potatoes. Y'all hear the killdeers? They fuss at Bear. Oh, there she is, out there in the field. The sounds of this farm are magic to me. The killdeers are not super happy with me about putting my garden in the middle of this field, but we will learn to live together. Over here, we have some rows of sunflowers. And here, we had the sweet potatoes. You can kind of see them back here. And I have some random like squash plants that I was given at the content creator meetup that we had. And down here are some purple sweet potato vines. Now these came from some local friends, Stan and Dina. They look super healthy. They weren't shipped in. They were just given locally. I traded them some raw milk for those purple sweet potato slips and some pickled okra, which was so good that I will not tell you whether or not it's true that I ate the entire jar in one setting. Yes! Look! Happy birthday, little guy. This is my okra. And there's another one. Bear, we have okra! Yay! Yay, Bear! I'm so happy about this. That's so good. Oh man, y'all, I was out here the other day with Will and I was kind of looking around, little, you know, concern on my face. We have squash too! Look, there it is! We have squash too! What else do we have? We don't have beans yet. We have... Those are zinnias. We have zinnias. We have a cucumber. We have another cucumber. We have so much. I noticed that there's less sprouting. I don't see anything sprouting over here yet. On this more shaded side of the garden. It's a little more shaded because of the high tunnel, which is fine. It'll sprout. It might just take a little while longer. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Look. There we go. Happy birthday. This is an Armenian yard-long cucumber. Happy birthday, tiny precious. So I was walking through here and I was telling Will, I was like, you know, I haven't got to the place in gardening where I just feel 100% confident that it'll work. Like, there's still a little, like, twinge of doubt that comes up in my mind when we sow seeds, and you know, you come out like 6 hours later as if anything's going to have happened, and I'm walking around for the next following couple of days being like, is it gonna sprout? Is it gonna happen? Maybe it's not gonna work this time. What a silly thing to think, right? But it did work. It actually worked. It never stops being a miracle to me that it actually works. So this got finished this week. We are incorporating flagstone in small amounts in different places on the farm. And here in the middle, that'll be gravel to the drive so that we can access this with equipment. But this will be the entry into this high tunnel. Hey, Katie girl. Did you come out here with me? You little farm dog. Katie, the unlikely farm dog. She's a sweet girl. So this high tunnel is looking really good. I would say most of the things in here look pretty good. I have had some issues with some of my tomato plants just kind of shriveling up. They haven't shriveled up in here. It's been out in the other garden. And what I've surmised, my friend Hannah came over here the other day. We were planting some stuff and just chatting. And she's from here and she's used to gardening in this clay. And what we kind of think is that a few of the tomato plants, and it was weird because they were kind of in a line. They were different rows, but they sort of lined up. And we think that was just like a place where the water was running underground, and therefore the roots just rotted. So I replanted them much more shallow than I would normally plant a tomato, and they seem to be doing okay. All of these peppers are looking pretty good though in the ground. This greenhouse now has the shade cloth on it, so you can kind of tell that it's shadier in here than outside. It feels nice in here. I have to finish planting it. I haven't done those 2 rows. I haven't done part of this, and some of the ends aren't planted yet. I'm just so tickled to have sprouts in my garden on this beautiful morning. I do want to clarify, talking about like that shady side and things not sprouting as fast. Of course, something did sprout, but less than over here. That doesn't have to do with the amount of light, because most of these things do not need light to sprout. Flowers do, some flowers do, and lettuces often do, and herbs. But most of the garden vegetables you grow in an annual garden, the light is not affecting their sprouting. But with the sun shining on the soil, it's going to be warmer, and the warmth does cause things to sprout sooner. Your stuff, if you direct sow it, it can take up to a couple weeks to sprout, and sometimes unexplainably longer. Sometimes things will pop up a few weeks after you sow it and you're like, wait a second, I already re-sowed this place. I didn't think that was going to sprout. I usually give things a couple of weeks before I assume that they're not coming to the party, and then I'll re-sow with more seeds to fill in those spaces. Sometimes things end up coming late, but mostly within 2 weeks, at least in the warm place that I live, mostly within 2 weeks. If they are going to sprout, they will. All right. So today we're going to have a little bit of a chat for this vlog. This is going to be a pretty heavy conversation, but I think that it's a good one, and I think it's an important one to have. I haven't shot a vlog in the last week. I did do a kind of teaching video that didn't require any vulnerability on my behalf. And that's because this has been a hard week with a lot of sadness. A beautiful young woman who I have known and admired for many years now passed away this week. She's the artist that makes so many of my lovely mugs. And in fact, this one was in a box on my counter waiting for me to do an unboxing video when I got the news that she had died. So I opened that one alone because I wasn't ready really to share that with everybody. It's very important to me to create a refuge for you guys. Together on this YouTube channel, we've gone through a lot of changes in the world. I've gone through a lot of changes in my life. We've shared probably the greatest grief we've ever experienced with you guys. You know, we lost Jeremiah's mom since starting our YouTube channel. We've shared the ups and downs and the real struggles of relocating and just all the changes that happen, and we've shared our joys. But I feel this desire to share refuge where you can turn on videos, and I intentionally don't put an intro on them. I want you to feel like you just popped into a friend's house and that you're walking around in this peaceful and beautiful life, and it's important to me. So sometimes when things happen and I'm dealing with deep sadness, I don't exactly know how to share it. I don't want to feel like I'm laying the burden that I'm carrying on you. And I'm not arguing that that's a healthy viewpoint. I'm just telling you that it's the one I have. However, after much consideration of the fact, I have decided to talk about the fact that this week I have been deeply sad. When Asher and Jackson, my teenage boys, they're now 15 and 16, almost 15. Asher's birthday is next week. When they were little kids, they were in the 1st and 2nd grade. Their best friends were killed in a tornado. And it was a great, great grief to walk through. I remember Asher, who has always just had a way with expressing himself. He's very special in that regard. Saying to me at 7 years old, "This sad feels so big that there's not room for anything else. This sad doesn't fit inside of me." And since then, we've adopted this term that we use sometimes when we say the big sad is back. Because the way that he said that, it was exactly how it feels. When your grief feels like it might just completely consume you. It's filling you up and it makes you feel like you might just explode. It's the big sad. When Jeremiah's mother passed away, it was really sudden. We had just had her 60th birthday and she got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer just a few days later, and she was gone in 2 weeks. And I remember that, the big sad is back. It feels like it's going to explode me. It feels like it's going to consume me, just swallow me up. And I was at the viewing for her before her funeral. And I had a friend named GT. He was an older man, and he had done his career in counseling and therapy. And he came up to me as I was standing next to her casket, and he said, "Jessica, grieve well." And I remember really pondering what he was saying and thinking, what does that mean, to grieve well? I'm an expressive person, poetic, dramatic, all of those things are true. And I have always kind of had this sense of like, when you are so expressive, some people, they don't exactly know what to do with it. So I have always had this tendency when I have very big feelings to try to contain them within myself. And I wondered when GT said, grieve well, what does that even mean? Like, scream, wail, sackcloth, ashes, like, what does that mean? And over the course of the following years, I've really learned that sometimes what grief looks like is just giving your sadness some space, letting it out a little bit. Anybody who's asked me this week, how are you? I've said, I am deeply sad. And because of that, I can also feel happy. I can also rejoice at Seedlings because there's some room inside of me. And because that big sad doesn't fit. So I have to let it out, or else there will be no room for happy and no room for joy and no room for hope. GT died too, shortly before we moved here. And I learned even more how to apply his advice in his absence. And I've learned that a lot of what grieving well looks like is carrying his wisdom with me through the rest of my life and skin. Carrying Haley's mugs with me through my joy in the garden. Admiring Jeremiah's mother's mouth on the face of my son. And I'm learning, inching into 40, just how more common it comes for people to cross out of the skin story and into the other side. I don't have all the answers as to why things happen. I don't have many answers at all, I would say. But today, when I just turned on the camera and let you guys into my life, I want you to know that I am deeply happy about my seedlings, and I am deeply sad about the loss of a beautiful young woman who had a great deal of talent and who was precious and who enriched my life with the work of her hands. And in the refuge that I hope to create, I hope that I can give you permission. That refuge doesn't mean that everything is always happy. It just means that there's space for whatever it is that you might be feeling. And whoever you are that needs to hear it, grieve well. Make the room. Let yourself feel more than one thing at a time. We are complex and beautiful creatures with great depths. It is not an either or to be happy or sad. And sometimes I think joy and hope have to have both happiness and sadness inside of them, or they're not real. I do ask that you please keep Haley's family in your prayers as they begin the journey across a great ocean of grief. Loss like that stays with you, and there are still moments that those great losses that we have experienced just kind of pop up and demand a moment, and we give it to them. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I bless you. Until next time.